Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about criticism and obsessive compulsive personality disorder. So having trouble receiving feedback and criticism is sort of a human thing, and that's because of course we'd rather be praised and validated. And so that's a healthy feeling to an extent that you may be adverse to negative feedback. Me, as a person living with obsessive compulsive personality disorder, negative feedback and criticism hits me so hard. And like, even if you don't have OCPD, you might be able to relate to this. So I hope this video can help you. For me, what that looks like in a day is I am down for the count. Like if I'm criticized in the morning by someone in my job, that's it for the day. I'm not doing anything else because I feel so completely worthless, like not needed. No one's grateful for my work, and so why am I even spending the time doing that? So ultimately I really lack resilience in this area, and there was sort of another incident this week that like pushed me into this topic to finally do it, even though it's been on my list for a while. So in this video we are going to break down how OCPD relates to the problems we have with coping with criticism, and then we'll come up with some coping strategies. So I wanted to just touch on the research before getting into this. So I found a study called Living with Obsessional Personality by Rowland, Janer, and Pinchall. And so what they mean by obsessional personality, for some reason in this article, is OCPD. I'm not exactly sure the sort of the semantics of that, but it says they, or people with OCPD, have a very low threshold for feeling hurt and cannot cope with criticism. Any criticism is a perceived attack on their already perfect standards, and they are left feeling out of control. To avoid such criticism, they spend a long time making the correct decision or remain indecisive and exercise extreme caution to avoid failure. This results in rumination and fixation, and can cause deep hatred, anger, and sadness. And for me personally, when it says this results in rumination and fixation, I would also say, weirdly, it's like extreme avoidance at the same time that I'm fixated on it. Like I'm so fixated on the thing that I need to avoid it, but me trying to avoid it is actually a manifestation of my fixation on the topic, if that makes any sense. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about beliefs that people with OCPD have before receiving a piece of feedback. Like just in general, these are just some of the beliefs that I have. Healthy or not, I'm just going to say them. So my worth comes directly from my work. My way or the highway. An attack on my work is an attack on me as a person. And I put perfectionism, but I don't, and I want to broaden that term perfectionism to not just your work, like a paper or a project or, something that you're working on like that. It's like, for me, it's perfectionism in my life each day. So if I do not have a good mood all day long, like that's very hard for me to cope with, because I think each day should be a good day, which means not having any bad moments. It's like being a perfectionist with your mental health. So receiving criticism and not having a healthy way to deal with it actually exacerbates our problem and our beliefs with OCPD and reinforces them. Here's how. I created a little chart, and I want to read it to you, and you can look at it on the screen. I think it's pretty awesome, and it makes so much sense to me. So on a normal day, a person with obsessive compulsive personality disorder needs their work to be perfect, does not forgive themselves easily or quickly, criticizes themselves for everything. Everything. Doesn't need to be work related. Has trouble making decisions for fear of making the wrong one. Now, this is a person with obsessive compulsive personality disorder on a normal day, but also they receive criticism that day about their work, about their self, or anything remotely related to them, as I take all of those things personally. So, needs their work to be perfect, does not forgive themselves easily or quickly, criticizes themselves for everything, has trouble making decisions for fear of making the wrong one, receives criticism from others. One error in their brain equals the entire piece of work is trash, awful, unusable. Why did I spend time on this? I am the worst. Therefore, I am pathetic, incompetent, worthless, shouldn't even be doing this job. I clearly can't do this right. I guess I'll just quit. And if I don't quit, I'll just make sure that I keep needing my work to be perfect, not forgiving myself easily or quickly for mistakes, criticizing myself for everything, and continue being indecisive because I'm scared of making the wrong choice because I will be criticized. So this cycle keeps going on and on and on. But how we can intervene is with these coping strategies of about coping with criticism in really healthy ways. So I just want to remind you that developing strategies for yourself is much better than trying any strategy that I give you, probably, because like just the probability that you come up with something that's going to work for your personality type, for your specific illnesses and beliefs, is going to be way better than just some generic one that I come up with. But then again, if we are similar in some of these beliefs, I might be able to help you. So I am going to run through them, but maybe I'll do a video another time of how to develop certain strategies for yourself. So I have some talkbacks for yourself and for in your mind, and then some responses to others when they're giving you criticism. Very tactical. All right, so some talkbacks in my head. If someone says, this format's completely unreadable, and usually it's not a very big comment. It's actually much smaller than that, but anyway, you can say things to yourself like this. So it goes. I've heard worse. It hurt my ego, but never my soul. That's from Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. It's a very wonderful book. I love it. It's about creativity. I work to live. I don't live to work. So like this mistake. Literally, who cares? And I know that that's ironic because you care so much that you received that comment or that piece of feedback. You care so much. You think the other person cares so much. But also at the same time, it's like, literally, who cares? It's like both of those feelings wrapped in one. Very awesome. Very awesome. I'd hate to know what you'd say to someone less awesome than I. Chuckles. And then nobody died. I love this one, and I have an example for you of some comment that I received publicly, I suppose. I was in my first week of a professional job ever. It was Friday. It was the very beginning of the coronavirus things, and so I was sending something out to families, and I sent the test message to myself, and this wasn't in Gmail. It said some weird system that like I'd never used before because it was my first week, and I got like very minimal training on it. But anyway, I went to send the actual message after the test message, and apparently I left the sender an email address as my name instead of my boss's, even though it's from my boss. And so that was an oversight. That was a mistake. I meant to put his name in there. But then later on Facebook, there was a parent comment or several parent comments about how you need to use recognizable names or no one knows it's you. I have no idea who this person is. We're talking about my name, which goes, of course, I'm new. And something about it, mine was going to spam. You should really watch this, like all these things. And that was so hard on me because I worked so hard the entire week. And like, that's what I get. That's, and so, like it even said the organization in the subject line. Like, I don't understand, like, could they, and people can't let things go in some ways. And so that affected me so much. But what I kept telling myself, and I was like crying to my mom, I was like, nobody died, and people are gonna die from the coronavirus, but nobody died because I sent it from my name, which is so true. So that's kind of how I dealt with that, is that those two words. All right, some responses to others that you could actually use when you're receiving feedback is, I am appreciative of this feedback. That's a great one. Why that's so great is like, you're not appreciative of the exact thing that they're saying to you or the way that they're saying it. You're appreciative that you just received something that's going to allow you to practice your coping strategies. And so eventually, the more you receive feedback and the more you're practicing your coping strategies, you're going to get really good at them, and you're going to like fine tune them. And then criticism is just going to be like another part of the day and another part that you already have a plan for. Also, you don't have to take the person's feedback or criticism or like suggestion, because yours still might be better. So never think that like if someone says something, you must do that. You must be, instead of pleasing your coworkers and your boss, it's more of pleasing your stakeholder or your customer. And so what's best for them. Here are some facial expressions that you could throw in there. The nod. the of course nod, like you knew that they were going to say that. The nod and raising the corner of your mouth. So sort of a combination of things, but just it says something a little different about you. You're using your lips in the facial expression. This one's really good. And this is like if it feels appropriate to you. Is like doing the lip thing. I don't know what that's called, but that could work. And then of course doing the like listening to your mom on one side of a phone call when her friend is ranting. It sounds like this. Sure. 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 Right. Right. Over and over again. That is the secretary way to do it, and that is awesome. And then finally, the classic Grace Helbig coping mechanism that will solve any problem, and that is the double middle finger outside of the zoom frame. Do you know that I'm flipping you off right now? No, because you can't see it, but I really am. So that's a great one. It just gives you some power during the meeting. Of course, like I said, it needs to be out of the frame so that you are not penalized. And then I just want to say one more thing as the conclusion. So I hope that you've gotten something helpful from this video, and you know that receiving negative feedback or criticism is so hard, and it actually affects you as a person. What's even harder is if other people receive it, they're just like super laissez-faire about it, and they're like, oh, okay. And then they just go about the day and they like don't think about it again. Whereas like you think about it for the rest of the day, and it affects and modifies your behavior for the rest of the day and or week and or forever. But I want to flip this around, and I want to say you're commenting on somebody else's work. And of course you have very, very high standards. But just say you are. Do you think less of that person as a person? Like as a personality, an individual, a human? Do you think they're less of a person because you just had a comment on their work? I hope that the answer would be no. If the answer is yes, you have some more beliefs to work through, which is fine. But the answer, as you know, I think, should be no. You don't think less of them as a person because of one thing that they did wrong in a report. And so flip that back around on yourself. So now we've done a 360. People are not thinking less of you as a person because of something. People honestly think that they're being extremely helpful when they give their suggestions, even if they're not. It's actually a very interesting topic of psychology. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video and learned something. If you have video requests as we go into the summertime, you can slide into my DMs on Instagram, which is at youseemnormal, or you can feel free to leave a comment on my video. If you haven't been over to my blog in a while, sometimes I find it really helpful to go over to the blog and like reread some of the posts instead of rewatching videos, because it's a different way that your mind will receive and retain the information. So I hope that's helpful to you, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye. Don't be normal. Is that good? Is that a good ending? Don't be normal.